Even though you can witness so many dramatic shifts in the environment over the course of your own life, like natural spaces you might have explored or played in as a child that have now turned to concrete, or the lightning bugs you can't catch in a jar with your kids, it's still rather difficult for our minds to comprehend the full impact of modern humans upon this planet. Our timeline, 100 years or less, is so minuscule compared to the life of the Earth. So we need meaningful ways to scale the 4.6 billion years of Earth's memory into something personally graspable, say 46 years in the life of a person. For instance, if I were the Earth and I were comparing deforestation since the Industrial Revolution to hair loss on my head, it would be like half my hair falling out, but just in the past minute of my life. And only in this way can we begin to sense the existential anxiety tied to the collapse of the ecology that sustains life. This episode is about animals and the wisdom of pets in particular, but it got me curious about another graph, the breakdown of mammalian life, not by numbers of species or numbers within species, but by total mammalian biomass across vast periods of time and into the present. So we can trace the ancient origins of pets and juxtapose that with the beginning of the rapid erasure of the wild. Well before the ancient Egyptians famously revered cats, associating them with protection, domestic harmony, and the goddess, archaeological evidence suggests that dogs were the first domesticated animals descended from wolves. Burial sites from the Paleolithic era have been found where humans and dogs were interred together, some with signs of care in older age or disease, implying that they probably had emotional bonds. If we imagine thousands of years back into prehistory, the first pet wasn't a possession, but a pact. Maybe a lone wolf approached the edge of a campfire's light and lingered. Maybe an equally curious and kind child fed that wolf some scraps. A mutual decision repeated across generations that proximity could be more than tolerance, it could become trust and even companionship. This was the late Pleistocene epoch, millions and of years to up to 12,000 years ago, when Earth was teeming with wild mammals, megafauna like mammoths and giant sloths, saber-toothed cats, along with bison, deer, wolves, and countless other mammals. They accounted for 99% of mammalian biomass, while humans were sparse, living as foragers, hunters, and gatherers, just a sliver of the whole, making up less than 1%. From there, across the next several thousand years, we reach the Neolithic Revolution, the introduction of agriculture, and the emergence of civilization. So, around 5,000 years ago, wild mammals still dominated the landscape at 90%. Humans rose to 5%, and early domesticated animals like cattle, goats, sheep, pigs, and dogs make up the remaining 5%. Then, with the rise of empires, 2,000 years ago, more land was converted for farming and human biomass doubled to 10%, wild mammals dropped to 80%, and livestock rose to 10%. Just 200 years ago, after billions and billions of years, with the advent of the Industrial Revolution, things shifted again. We reached a kind of equalization, but not equilibrium, where humans, livestock, and wild mammals each hovered around 30 to 40% of total mammalian biomass. Then, in what amounts to the briefest blink in the cosmic eye, we arrive at the present day, a world profoundly shaped by human activity, livestock, animals bred for human use, labor, food now vastly outnumber wild species by biomass. Many wild animals are endangered or declining, while urban and agricultural landscapes totally dominate the Earth's surface. And today, humans account for 34%, livestock 62%. So, statistically speaking, we've become the entire show at a whopping combined 96%. And the wild animals, all the elephants, deer, whales, tigers, rodents, wolves, primates, all of that combined is just 4%. Now, coming back to pets, with this drastic shift in biomass, it's ironic to consider that over just the last several generations, we didn't just bring animals into our homes, we pushed most others out of theirs. Pet, the word, is both a verb and a noun, emblematic of this paradox. Maybe that says something about our deeper intuitions, that even if it's unconscious, something doesn't feel right. And yes, we love and care for our pets. They may emotionally support not just us as mutual companions in this life, but as healers of some shared inherited trauma, or even as quiet antidotes to this existential dread happening so urgently in our bones, but still too slowly for our minds. And albeit for some of us reluctantly by some of our hands and happening to our hearts. So, this talk was recorded at Quartz Mountain State Park in western Oklahoma, which I hesitate to even mention because it feels so serene and prehistoric there, like land before time. I don't really want more people to tour there, but here we are. It was recorded there last August of 2024. In this episode, I go into the human animal bond through myth and memory across cultures and climates, and ask what these companions still carry for us, not just emotionally, but spiritually, as you'll hear in this episode. But I'm sure you probably already understand firsthand from your own stories with your beloved pets and how the connections go beyond the ordinary into the psychic and prophetic realms. We had an outdoor cat named Tiger who brought dead mice as an offering to our front porch daily, and then eventually for the neighbors to their disapproval. So our family tried to give Tiger away to farther and farther farms, miles and miles away, to appease the neighbors. But she returned every time across long distances. And so we eventually stopped trying. It's been special for me throughout my life to observe how my dad can communicate so uniquely with animals, wild animals. Uh, Maybe he developed a skill from deep listening and extended time in nature, but he's a sort of bridge between the two kingdoms. And it's mostly about friendship. Like one time we were swimming in a mountain pond in a remote part of California, and a lizard was watching us from a rock at a safe distance. And my dad said he wants to know if it's safe to swim here too. And so he told him it was, and offered his hand as some gesture of proof. Well, the lizard jumps into his hand, and my dad starts swimming around the pond, and then the lizard jumps off back onto the rock and unharmed. And so then the lizard enjoyed the water too and felt safe. So this episode examines what it means to coexist with pets as living vestiges of the wild that has largely vanished. though some ancient threads and maybe even a little magic remain. So let's begin.